Hey, welcome back to the permission statement. Thank y'all for coming back. I appreciate you. And those that are just getting here, it's going to get interesting. So I hope y'all stay, like, and subscribe. Ping, pong, boom. I'm not here to get rich or famous. I'm just a father fighting a corrupt system here in Napa County. So if you get a chance, watch some of the other videos that'll kind of get you up to speed. But I always try to give like a quick, brief synopsis every few days to kind of give you the meat and the potatoes in case you don't have the time to watch all the other videos. I'm going to be walking y'all through unfortunate passings of people and people that gave themselves permission to make certain choices that led to their demise, the families and the loved ones that are left behind and how that impacted them. The people who gave themselves permission to take these outcomes and do something positive with it, as opposed to giving themselves permission to do something negative, and how it all comes together in this big old matzo ball right here of this crazy conundrum I find myself in Napa County as a self-represented litigant, not by choice, up against somebody who is represented, and the gamesmanship and just the sick things that they've been doing. And I'm a regular father. I'm a driver here in Napa County. The person that I'm up against is a social worker for child welfare services for Napa County, the very county where you got to go into court and ask them to protect your child. And going into this, leading up to it, this individual was a case manager for the BOP through as a contractor through an institution, then eventually a nonprofit through called Napa Empowering Women Services News, and that agency is a platform and a springboard for people that go there and usually dive into other positions in Napa. So that being said, what that is saying is you're just not up against somebody who's just another parent. You're not just up against somebody who's another parent who has money, more money than you do. You're up against somebody who has more money than you and is part of the system in Napa. There's great things, but there's tons of corruption right here. And there's things that should have happened that haven't happened. And it begs the question whether it has to do with what this person does, and Napa County trying to protect their own ass, and the failures in my life here in Napa County as an abused child, where they just kept giving us back to our abusers 3 different times. I'm going to go through those 3 different circumstances where they kept giving me back to my abuser, and I was faced with a choice to do the unthinkable, and I chose to run away from home. So then I start running away from home, and then that leads into the juvenile justice system, which goes to programs, youth authority, the army, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to go through all those stories and how all of that came to this crazy life choice that is now front and center here. All right. So I'm going to go talk about good old Steve. Steve, before I joined the army, I would say this is about 1998. Steve, he wasn't with no group, no organization, no nothing like that. Steve was just straight Polish guy, family man, loved his kids, had a son just born not long before this took place, just worked his butt off. He liked to make mixtapes. He would always come and hang out, and he would always have me sitting, like, he had an Astro van, and he would play his new mixtape, and it was really good. He liked old school, you know, like Zapp and Roger, and dude was awesome fella, man. And he would work and he would stop at Trophies Lounge from time to time. I don't know if it was a daily thing that he would do, but it was getting close to Christmas, and he stopped at Trophy Lounge one day, and he was sitting at the bar. This is how it was explained to me by people that have more information about it than I do. And this happened, I think, in 1998, because it was right before I joined the army. And so it's been a long time. So he's at the bar. There's another gentleman there. From what I'm told, it was a Navy gentleman. and they were watching the TV, and some kind of discussion started about the sports, and then that discussion led to some kind of discomfort, and eventually I guess it got fickle or ugly, and so the Steve says, well, let's step outside, because Steve was SpongeBob SquarePants, but Steve still was a grown man, and he was put together like that where he would defend himself. Excuse me. And so the guy says okay, and as Steve turns to walk to go outside, that guy cracks him in the head with the bottle. Now Steve's on the ground unconscious, and what nobody understood was oxygen wasn't getting to his brain like it should have been. And so he was unconscious for multiple minutes. And then eventually somebody called an ambulance, and it just took a long time for them to get there. And he was placed on life support, and they monitored his condition, but it came to the decision had to be made, and I think they took him off of life support on Christmas Eve. So he didn't go out and make a chaotic decision that put him in this life circumstance. He turned his back on that guy. So the reason why I tell you all these stories is these life experiences, like I'm going to tell you about Fernando Salazar and these other people, they resonate with me. What happened to Rudy, that guy that was stabbed and killed by the girl's daughter's baby's dad and his friends on the front lawn. All these things resonate with me. When I'm going through all this stuff, I remember what happened to them, and I act accordingly based on those life experiences, because we don't have to experience some things ourselves if we take what other people have suffered and we augment it into our decision-making process. Like, I got a friend that did this, so I'm not going to do that because the outcome of what happened to him. And that's not to say things can't still happen, but the math is against us sometimes when you just make certain chaotic, stupid decisions. Now, Steve stopped at that place. That's another reason why I don't like going into these environments where people are drinking and they're stupid and there's bottles and yada, yada. I've been cracked in the head with the bottle just like that. The closest I've ever been to being knocked unconscious was getting hit completely with the bottle in the side of my head. Damn, those things hurt. So maybe the argument could have been diffused or whatever. So that was his part that he played in it. Him turning his back on somebody that was clearly, an aggressor, which is something I don't do. And so those decisions, I would have to put on him. The decision that the other guy made, this Navy dude that cracked him in the head, no, I'm not trying to cast no dispersions on the Navy, but it's just a trip. This was a sailor in the Navy, and his life is now Dunsky. His career, everything's done because my friend died because of his decision to crack him in a bottle. So that means he grabbed a weapon when he could have just used his hands, and he grabbed a weapon and he snuffed my friend from the blind. So now his life is in turmoil because he had to go to jail for that, right? And I got another story I'll tell you about, something similar like that too. Same thing, where sometimes people think, oh, well, as long as I don't hit somebody with the weapon. Wrong. You got to be careful. And so who was left behind? Steve's family, his son. It's like, it goes, there's that ripple effect that I'm talking about, that it goes, a rock goes in the pond and then and think about looking out into a crowd on your graduation day and your father's not there. Now, that's not to say there's a great man who stepped up into it, like a straight up 100% brother to Steve. Danny, he stepped out there 100%. But, no matter what, it's like you want to be there for your kid's graduation. And so you want to be there for every milestone that they hit. They may go through a hardship. They might end up being addicts or something, or you don't know it. It could be the girlfriend, that breaks her heart. If you're a dad, you have a daughter, and some guy breaks her heart. You want to be there for your kid to try to help them weather those storms. But decisions that we make can undo that. And so I got it. All these things that happen, I got it. But I've been up against a wall dealing with these people that do nothing but justify, despite all the life experience. One of them catching HIV, the other one going to prison for like 18 years, and so on and so on and so on. They're just like, meh. Like, and I'm just like, holy crap, man, I got a kid here that I need to make sure that he don't go down that path. And their whole thing is just like, well, it can happen either way. And man, when you got people like that in your orbit, you got to press them out, man. You got to have people that are like-minded and understand that there's nothing more important than empowering our children. Empowering a male or a female or any of that shit is second always to empowering our children. Whether we have a son or a daughter or whatever, our children's future and our grandchildren's and however many generations, if we're fortunate enough to have that, that's our responsibility. And anybody that comes in, if somebody's a repeat, I'm trying to reduce the profanity I use here, because like I said, I don't want it to be misconstrued as a lack of class. But if somebody is just a repeat screw up, we'll just say it that. Somebody's a complete repeat screw up and they're just not getting it, like there's nothing you can do. They got to do it themselves. I had to do it myself. I'm saying I'm right here. Me. It had to come from within me. And once people stop fixing the problems for you before you get to the bottom of the barrel, so that there's only one way but to go up, those people are just really harming you. And if they see in you the ability to work your way out of the problem, and they're trying to help facilitate that, that's one thing. But when people are constantly trying to fix problems that you need to suffer that consequence, at least to some extent, so that you'll learn from that and not do it over and over and over again, or something very similar, then that's not good. And I worked so dang much and all this other stuff, having to do all this legal crap and yada yada, and take care of the dogs and be a dad and yada wood bop. I was doing a Kaiser group, 2 of them, like 2 hours a piece, and so it was a lot. And like I said, listening to parents with children that are older than mine, that are going through exactly what I don't want to happen, what I've already seen in the rearview mirror, in the past. And these parents want to help their children, and they're so afraid that if they stand their ground and like some of them had to kick their kids out because their kids just aren't going to get it. And I say kids, like some of them are grown adults, and they're taking advantage of them. They're enabling them. That's the qualifier, the person who has the issue, and the parents are the ones that are the enabler. And so they got to set their boundaries, and they're trying to, but at the same time, they care about their child, because it's like they're worried, if I just say, no, enough is enough, and I send my child out there, what if they die in that process and I'll feel guilty? And that's a huge weight to shoulder right there. You know what I mean? But that also helps the qualifier to continue with the abuse. And man, I don't want to be in that situation to where it's like, oh, I gotta let my son suffer the consequences so that maybe he'll learn the lesson. But it's just like, the reality is that might mean you might have to let your child die, because if it's addiction or whatever, imagine being in that situation. So it matters right fucking now, excuse my language again, it matters right now that we do something, not waiting down the road. I can't stand these people with that attitude, man, that are just like, oh, and they have so many people in their life that they've seen just, and they themselves, most of the people that are like that, it's like they themselves are getting like the little slap on the wrist, little like cachetada. And so they don't understand true suffrage. There's other people that are just like, they get it. It's unfortunate. Some people go to prison for a long time, and they got it really relatively quick into that sentence that like, no, this ain't for me. But now they're like, their foot is caught in the bear trap, and it's too late. You want to get it across before their foot's caught in the damn bear trap. And that's all I'm saying. But rock with me, because we're about to start getting a whole lot more intensified, because Christopher Vernon Raider and all these other people, these enablers and whoop-de-wops and, you know, yada yada, it's time that we're gonna elaborate now. So anybody, I know some people are going to be on the spectrum to where they agree with the other people with, yeah, no, enabling, and you got a baby and all this other stuff, and no, that's cool. Get it how you live. But I'm trying to get out there and ask for, let me get some feedback from people who live normal lives. Like, does any of that shit sound normal to you? You know, and if it does or if it doesn't, hit me in the comment section, because I'd like to hear it from more than just myself. And some of the people here are my subscribers, have been through this stuff, they've been on this journey, and they understand. But once I get to all the murders, kidnappings, deaths, drunk driving, yada yada, whoop-de-wop, prison time, it should be no question that all this stuff has to be pressed out away from a child that's growing and observing and learning. And we're here in Napa, California. There's plenty of opportunity. There's plenty of normal, sane people that don't have all these crazy, awkward issues. But yet the issue, and the person in this, the respondent in this matter, just refuses. She brings all that stuff with her. She comes to Napa and links up with other drunk drivers, her friends, Maricela and, you know, Ali Alicrans and all her little friends that are so like, yeah. And still maintains the relationships with the people from the past that were that were side by side with her when she did all this stuff that put her in these awkward conundrums with her first child and with her life, all the drunk driving and yada yada. I mean, there's no justification for what she did as a case manager at that halfway house. It's a crime. She shouldn't have been screwing one of the inmates and then going and committing. So when you do all this stuff, it just threw away everything that she had worked hard on to get a bachelor's degree and to start a career and to, you know, build this bond with her child. She just threw all that stuff away from Marvin Mace. Got his name tattooed right here, got arrested together. And then after all that, she goes and marries him. You know, she got 2 DUIs with this dude. Then he shoots himself on accident. He's having her walk into Mexico and stuff her fucking vagina with heroin, where she could have died or been arrested. Long-term real consequence then, away from her son. No slap on the wrist. No PC-1000 for that. No, I don't think so. And then she marries a dude. You know, and there's a whole lot more to it. But that kind of chaotic mindset was a huge red flag. You know, seeing the porno videos of her and him that I shouldn't have had to see, that no fiance should have to see that kind of crap because she had it on her computer and all the letters from him hidden in a room. So thinking to it back then, I was like, is this dude going to be a problem? You know? But then at the same time, she was out screwing all these other dudes, eventually included be me. And then when we hook up, I'm the good guy. And like, hey, I'm the one that didn't hit it and quit it. Everybody else is just like treating her like a cum dumpster. You know, for these gangbangers were like, oh yeah, hit it, quit it, gone, boom. And then one of them gets her pregnant, and then I meet her through him, whatever. I wouldn't say he was a gangbanger. He wanted to be one, but all the other guys, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it is what it is. They're all from gangs and affiliated and active. And so that's another red flag. But I was like, yo, I see something good in you. And but she couldn't move to where I was. I was in Sonoma, Boyas Hot Springs, and she was living in Southeast San Diego in a rough patch, you know, going through all this stuff. I uprooted myself from Sonoma, California, to go there so that I could be closer to her. And in doing so, knowing that I had conflict with certain people, had to roll the dice. But that's how much love that I had for her. Now, was there any reciprocity? Yeah, kind of, sort of, so much. But she was always complaining about my friends. Like, what do your friends have to do with becoming a homeowner or reestablishing yourself with what you already blew up with your educational endeavors? This individual wanted, after she blew up her whole thing with the criminal justice things by doing all this stuff at Marvin Mace, wanted to be an advocate for alcoholics and substance abuse. When you see the pictures, you can be like, does this seem like an advocate, a person that should be an advocate for substance abuse and alcoholism? Well, she's over here getting, and at the time she wasn't. But like I said, when we moved to Napa, she starts hanging out with little friends from news and stuff, and she starts ramping it back up. Then we start going back to San Diego, hanging out more with her friends that were part of it, and it just kept going and going and going. And right when they see her, then her brother comes home, the alcoholic piece of shit, and I'll explain to you what he was doing. That just was like, no, you got to do something. This ain't gonna happen. This ain't cool. But then, of course, he's another one of the neighbor. Oh, it's my sister, so I got to back her play. But, God, man, I never seen nothing like this before. It's like I said, it's a flock of black sheep. There's not a black sheep in the family. It's the entire family is a black sheep. Is black sheep. The blackest sheep is this. And fucking up and screw ups, man. And instead of them coming together and saying, no, we're not going to do this anymore because our whole family's all jacked up, it's just like they're like, oh, you can't judge us. It's like, nah, nobody's judging you, but we gotta like put a good foot forward. And all these toxic people were sucking us backwards and bringing us into their shit. Her mom starts messing with the drug addicts that took over her pad and got the pad hit and all kinds of, man, nobody should have to go through what I've had to deal with. And now all those toxic alcoholics here in Napa that are interwoven into the system, they're like desperate to protect, and they're pulling some moves, and they want to create a wedge between me and my son. And I've never abandoned my kid. I didn't abandon my kid like she did and all that other stuff. But still, I'm up against a system that has to protect her because for whatever reason, they didn't know. And she should have took that as like, you know what? I don't really belong here because I already did some really stupid shit, but I'm here and I need to let go of the past and move forward. That didn't happen. And so I got to a point where I was like, hey, I need help, man. And you guys failed me horribly. I've been through all kinds of crazy shit that people can't fathom, and they couldn't fathom it either. And they failed me yet again. So now I'm caught up in this crazy battle. I need y'all to ride with me. Once the whole narrative gets out there, then it'll make more sense. But right now, I'm dealing with all these people that feel that have an obligation, I guess, to protect Napa County. And I don't have an obligation to protect Napa County. I have an obligation to protect my son, his future, and so that he doesn't end up in juvenile hall or in foster care or any of that other stuff. And some people be like, oh, how could that happen? Blah, blah, blah. It can happen, man. Like I said, there's the juvenile hall here. There was a kid in the custody and the care of Napa County, and this kid was brutally sexually assaulted and raped in Napa Juvenile Hall under their care. How did that happen in Napa? How did Napa County let that happen? You know what I mean? How was this child done like that? And imagine if that was your kid in their custody and that happened to your child. What? Think about that.